looks like Operation Pied Piper has been successful. All of my chickens are in here now. And I will admit there were a couple stragglers that I tried to round up last night. What was it? 4 of them. I rounded up 2 of them, and then 2 kept getting away from me. So I let them just do their thing. And when I came to feed the chickens this morning, who had spent 80-90% of the chickens that spent the night in that coop, come out in the morning, and there's this, and all I did to just further Operation Pied Piper. Maybe this one would be more Operation Shangri-La. And so all I did was just leave the door open and then feed the chickens as per usual. And then those last 2 stragglers make their way in here. Now I'm going to close the door, and I've walled in their coop pretty good, just with leftover wood and whatever building materials. So they can't get out. They're stuck between the greenhouse and the coop now. And during the winter, I will, once they're all I'll even probably start doing it soon. I don't want to right now. Kind of want to keep them in here for a couple more days, and then I'll just start leaving this door open. Because once the snow's on the ground, they know and viscerally understand why they can't go outside and why it's so much better in the Shangri-La. But an interesting thought I was just kind of, one thing is people ask me, why don't you just round them up at night? That's just the best way to move chickens. And they're right. And that's what I normally do. But I like to try new shit, and I like to make videos about things. So there you have it. But the thing that's interesting when you think about the idea of the Pied Piper and, this happy song, pulling you in a direction, just like the mainstream media puts propaganda at you that gets you to react one way or the other, is that there's this sort of dichotomy, and it's not necessarily the ultimate dichotomy. I wouldn't call it a false dichotomy, but it is a dichotomy. When you think about dystopia, as the dichotomy of 1984 versus Brave New World, and if you're not familiar with those stories, you might kind of miss this point. But without going into the details of those movies or of those books, if you don't know them, you should understand at least the basic premise. And it is that in 1984, it's a society it's a communist technocracy that's driven by fear, and people are motivated by fear. And so it's the fear of repercussion of the state that just keeps them in line, and there's, it's a complete authoritarian communist technocracy, essentially. In Brave New World, it's exactly the same thing. It's a complete authoritarian technocracy, but people's motivation is by pleasure. So you have this dichotomy of motivation of pleasure or pain. The other thing you could add into the mix to bring it down to more reality and sort of get out of the dichotomy is that you can also be motivated by your own self-interest. You can be motivated by cost. You can be motivated by the allocation of your time. And, which is it? It's this interesting thing, this thought experiment. But, with the chickens, at this point, it really comes down to, it could be a number of things. It's probably just convenience. It's easier to get food this way. They're motivated by, it's a nicer climate in here. It's at least a climate zone warmer. And on sunny days, it's tropical, even in the dead of winter. But it is interesting to kind of think about those motivations. And so that was the whole point of last video, was to just show this thing that people and animals are motivated in some way or another. And it's essentially how we are controlled. And my message has been for a long time, and I feel the need to reinforce it even more, is that if you want freedom, you have to accept more responsibility. And that's just not easy. And I think most people would rather just, make comments from the peanut gallery to the state, which is essentially voting, in my opinion. It's a pathetic, pointless action that brings no remedy, because it doesn't matter what the political party is. The state always wins. The state always acts in its own interest, which is to protect its assets and its interests. And that's pretty much all there is to it. The state is nothing more at its base it's a corporation. It's literally a corporation. That's not a controversial thing to say at all. And it's easily provable in any government, whether it's an international government or an international government agency, sort of like a UN, whether it is a federal government like a Canada or the United States, it's a provincial, a state government, or if it is a municipality. They are all corporations, and they all used to say that in the 70s and 80s. You would still see signs that said the corporation of the city of Dallas or something like that. That was commonplace, and so it's not controversial. But what it is, though, is a monopoly on the use of force. So it's a corporation that has special privileges granted through law or statute law that you consent to, that gives it that monopoly on the use of force. And so what is the best way to rule people? Coming back to this dichotomy of being motivated by pleasure or pain, or expanding it into other motivations. But if you're the state and you're a corporation that's doing business, you also have an economic incentive to not deploy endless amounts of resources. It's one thing when you're the state that can print money or be involved in printing money with the central bank to allocate funds to do things one way or the other. They do that. Of course they do that. At the same time, sometimes the money isn't enough motivation to do the thing that you want to do as a government. And so it might be in that case where you decide to create incentives so that people do the moving of things for you. And that's essentially, I think, how governments fundamentally, or not fundamentally, but it is one of the ways that they approach initiation of their force, is to just control you through some kind of incentive. And so even here with the chickens, they're motivated by, well, it's easier in there. It's all the same, really. And you can do that with people. And I think what the time that we're moving into is showing us that that's exactly how it is, and how it's going to continue to be, is that they're going to motivate you by incentives. And those incentives, for the most part, all involve you doing less. Okay? But that's what the New World Order wants. The New World Order wants you to do less. In my opinion, God wants you to do more. God and the Creator want you to step up and own the responsibility of your life. Because there's an old saying, it goes something like this, is that if you don't own your life, meaning that if you don't own the responsibility and take the initiative to change your life for the better, or work towards prosperity, somebody else will for you. So if you don't own your life, somebody else will own your life. Thus, you're a slave. But you're a slave by choice, because you're choosing not to do something. And I would also put forward the case that choosing to vote and only participate in the betterment of your livelihood through those means is a choice to not actually do anything. Because, as I said before, no matter who you vote for, the government always wins, because the government is just an entity with people in it, and those people act in their own self-interest. And can you blame them? I don't know. You tell me. But that's this little thought for the day. I've got this beautiful frosty morning out here, and I'm going to be pumping some water, and there'll be another video coming out about that. I've put a sealant in my pond, and because it's been leaking like crazy. And so I'm going to, when it warms up, when the sun breaks, and it's supposed to at some point today, I'm going to get on that. So that's it for this one, folks. Follow me on Twitter @OffGridStone. Hit the thumbs up if you like the video. Share the content. I'll see you in the next one. And that closes the door on Operation Pied Piper.
Thanks for watching, folks. If you want to learn any more about the products and services that we offer, head over to freedomfarmers.com. We can teach you how to get on the land and everything else from there.